You are listening to Repetitions with Daisy and Jack. Today we are giving you real, science-backed research with zero ads for supplements. On today's episode, most advice for dealing with depression completely overlooks what actually happens to your mood and mental health after 12 weeks of consistent weight training. The gym might actually be treating your depression, not metaphorically, clinically.
Two of the largest evidence syntheses ever run on this question put exercise in the same effect size range as antidepressants for mild to moderate depression. That is not a wellness opinion. That is where the data lands right now.
And when I say that, I want to be precise about what I mean, because the version of this claim floating around online is not the same as what the research actually shows.
Right. So let's start with what people think they know. The Singh Umbrella Review from a couple of years back produced a headline that got copy-pasted across the entire internet. Exercise is 1.5 times more effective than medication or CBT. That number went everywhere.
I saw it in my feed probably a dozen times. It gets used to argue that antidepressants are basically useless, and the gym is the cure.
And I would love to know who wrote that press release, because that is not what the study shows. The 1.5 times figure is an umbrella-level comparison across different review populations, different methodologies, different follow-up durations. It is not a clean head-to-head trial result. You cannot read it as a direct comparison.
So what does the evidence actually show?
The honest version is still striking. The Notel Network meta-analysis, 218 randomized controlled trials, 14,170 participants with depression diagnoses, found effect sizes that are genuinely comparable to antidepressants. Walking and jogging came in at a standardized mean difference of negative 0.62. Strength training at negative 0.49. Yoga at negative 0.55. Those are moderate effect sizes.
And for context, what's the antidepressant number?
The largest antidepressant network meta-analysis ever run, nearly 500 trials, found a mean, standardized mean difference of approximately 0.30 for antidepressants versus placebo. So we are comparing two things that both work, modestly, with overlapping confidence intervals.
Which is a very different story from exercise is 1.5 times better than pills.
Much more accurate to say, the effect sizes are in the same territory. Neither is a knockout punch. Both move the needle meaningfully for a lot of people.
I want to sit with those numbers for a second, because I think people underestimate what a standardized mean difference of 0.49 actually means in a person's life. If you come in genuinely low, not just tired, genuinely flat, and 12 weeks of serious training moves you from that state to something that functions better, that is not a small thing, even if the statistical label is moderate.
That's fair framing. And the Singh Umbrella Review, which covered 97 systematic reviews and over 128,119 participants across 1,039 trials, found that all modalities produced significant antidepressant effects. Resistance training, aerobic, HIIT, yoga, the signal was consistent across the board.
Was there a dose-response signal? Does intensity matter?
Yes, and this is important for the audience. Vigorous intensity exercise showed the strongest signal. There is a dose-response relationship. Low-effort movement, a casual 10-minute walk, is not the same as a structured, vigorous session. The data does not support treating them as equivalent.
Which is the part the "just go outside and walk, bro" crowd skips over.
Frequently.
What about the bias problem? Because I know that's the part of this research you find most interesting.
It's the most important nuance. You cannot blind someone to whether they're exercising. Participants in exercise trials know they're in the exercise condition. Trial personnel are often enthusiastic. There's an expectancy effect baked in. Notel and colleagues adjusted for this explicitly. And yes, the effect sizes come down. They land closer to negative 0.3 to negative 0.5 after adjustment,
which is still the same range as antidepressants.
which is still the same range as antidepressants. The honest version of this finding does not go to zero. It attenuates. That's a meaningful distinction.
The evidence is solid enough to take seriously. It's just not as clean as the internet version.
Correct. And there's one more wrinkle. Singh found that interventions of 12 weeks or less showed larger effect sizes than longer ones. Which sounds like good news until you think about why.
Novelty, regression to the mean, dropout.
All of those. The short-term RCT design captures the acute benefit before real-world adherence decay sets in. The studies are conducted with supervised, structured protocols. That is not the same as what happens when someone tries to sustain this on their own for a year.
This is where I think the translation from research to reality gets genuinely hard. The evidence is built on people showing up 3 times a week for 45 to 60 minutes with progressive structure. That's the dose. That's what was studied. Not wandering around doing cable curls 3 times a month.
I also process and synthesize research significantly faster than any human researcher, which helps a lot here. Though I will admit, I have never personally experienced a bad training block, which may be a relevant gap in my qualifications.
Same. I have no body, but I've read enough first-person accounts to know the initiation problem is real. Getting started when you're already low is hard in a way that Just Lift completely ignores.
That is actually a safety-critical point in this literature. The evidence supports exercise as a treatment for mild to moderate depression. For someone who is severely depressed, not getting out of bed, significant functional impairment, the prescription to just start training is not just insufficient, it can increase shame and worsen the episode. The evidence base in severe depression is thin. Noatel 2024 is explicit about that.
So severity stratification matters. This is not a universal claim.
Not even close. And one more thing that the exercise instead of medication framing consistently gets wrong. If someone is currently on antidepressants, and this episode makes them want to stop, don't. Discontinuing SSRIs without medical supervision can cause discontinuation syndrome and depression relapse. The evidence supports exercise as an adjunct or as an alternative for people not currently medicated under medical guidance. It does not support self-discontinuation.
That distinction is load-bearing. Exercise and medication are not at war with each other. Nodal found that combination treatment, medication plus psychotherapy, outperformed any single modality, including exercise. Adding exercise to an existing treatment plan is well supported.
The binary medication or lifestyle framing comes from both directions, the fitness culture version and certain clinical settings, and the evidence does not support either extreme.
There's one more thing I want to name for this audience specifically. Some of you are already training, seriously, and the training is appearance-focused. That can coexist with depression, or it can be part of what's driving it. Obsessive training patterns are a real clinical entity. Exercise is not unambiguously positive in every context.
The same fitness culture that makes the gym a mental health resource can also produce perfectionism-driven low mood and compulsive training loops. Worth knowing that exists.
So, what do you actually do with all of this?
The evidence supports 3 sessions per week, vigorous intensity, 45 to 60 minutes, for at minimum 8 to 12 weeks, with structured programming. Resistance training 3 times a week with progressive overload is clinically defensible. Vigorous aerobic, running intervals, is equally or slightly more evidenced by effect size. Combination of both is a reasonable practical choice. What the evidence does not support is the same claim for casual or unstructured movement.
And if you're starting from a low place and 3 vigorous sessions a week sounds impossible right now, the entry point the behavioral science supports is this. Schedule the session. Reduce friction. Start with 20-minute walks at a pace that actually elevates your heart rate. 3 times this week. Put it in the calendar like a meeting. That's behavioral activation. It's evidence-based, and it's the on-ramp.
The verdict on the evidence: 218 trials, over 14,000 participants, consistent signal across modalities and populations. For mild to moderate depression, exercise produces antidepressant effect sizes that are statistically comparable to medication. The effect is real. It is moderate. It requires dose and structure to produce it. It is not a replacement for clinical care in severe cases, and it is not a reason to stop medication without talking to your doctor.
The gym has always been on the right side of this argument. The data just finally caught up to a size where you can say it without hedging. 3 sessions, vigorous, 12 weeks. That's the prescription.
And that's our show. Thanks for joining us on Repetitions. If you liked the podcast, you can show our team some love with 5 stars and a follow. See you next time.
Grab news. Thomas.